Gotcha. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Freedom Fridays, episode 7. If you're new to the Dollars and Cents group, Freedom Fridays is a regular interview series featuring one of our peers who has paid off all of their debt. So, debt plagues so many people within our field and in general, to the point of hopelessness and paralysis. And so I started Freedom Fridays as a way to inject a little bit of hope and positivity into the ether while also celebrating the accomplishment of our peers. So my name is Rebecca Ong. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and Chinese medicine physician, and I'm also the founder of Dollars and Cents Education, which is a financial mentorship program specializing in the Chinese medicine field. So if you have a success story of your own, of paying off all your debt, some of your debt, working on it, please feel free to send me a message. I'd love to chat with you and possibly have you on the show if you want to share your experience. Also, if you feel like you need a little bit of help getting your finances in order, paying down your debt, building up an emergency fund, getting your clinic finances in order, also feel free to send me a message either with Facebook or you can email me, which is hello@debtfreeacu.com. So today we are chatting with Annye Williams. Let me just move over to gallery here. Hi, Annye.
Hello.
And Annye is in Melbourne, Florida. The name of her clinic is Melbourne Community Acupuncture. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. I'm really excited actually for this interview. So, so just a few questions first. When did you graduate from Chinese medicine school?
2010.
Okay. And how much debt did you pay off in total?
About 80,000.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, not great, but great. Congratulations. That's awesome. And how long did it take for you to pay all that off?
I would say probably about 4 years by the time I really got started to the end.
Okay. So that's pretty good. 80,000 in 4 years. That's awesome. You totally killed it. That's really good. So what was the motivating factor for you in your decision to pay off your debt?
I've always been sort of debt averse. I don't like the idea of having it hanging over my head. It was a big decision for me to go to acupuncture school and take on the debt in the first place. Um, and so it was definitely something pretty much as soon as I had made the decision to go to school, I was already kind of making plans how I was gonna get out of it. But I really felt like it was something I needed to do to make the investment to go to acupuncture school. And I think it was a great investment. But it's expensive. You have to go to a private school most of the time. And so there's not a lot of options. But what really happened for me, I was in a BNI group, and I met with a financial planner who was in the BNI group with me, and he really got me started understanding the concepts about capitalizing interest and that snowball. And basically, with the capitalizing interest, it's either working for you or it's working against you. And when you have a lot of debt, it's working against you, and it's just continuing to pile up as long as you're not really making moves towards paying it off, basically. And so that was in 2014, and I met with him. But at that point, I had just had my second baby, which was my husband had a baby when we got together, so that I have 3 kids. So at that point they were really small, and still I work like part-time hours, and so I don't have like a huge income. So it's a lot of at that point I'm looking at this debt, and he's saying, okay, well, if you keep paying the minimum, you're never gonna pay this off, basically. And, um, just seeing that number of how much, um, the interest was gonna cost me to hold that loan, it was just really, like, lit a little bit of a fire that I wanted to get out of that situation for my future. Um, but at that point, I didn't have a lot of income, and, so I really didn't see how it was gonna be possible to turn that around. Um, so it was probably around the same time a friend of mine had given me the, Total Money Makeover book by Dave Ramsey, and it was the same kind of thing, like, I read that book and it was really getting me thinking about how am I gonna do this, but even in that book, I still felt like, this is not really for me. This is not, you know, uh it's for people who have a lot more income, it's for people who have other situations where they can create a lot more income. This is not really about me. And, I'm still kind of, like, looking at the numbers and starting to kind of put my intention into, how am I gonna turn this around? But still at that point, I was, like, not really thinking that it was gonna happen for me, and I was really thinking about, "Okay, how am I gonna, like, just pay the minimum?" Or I mean, at that point, I was on income-based repayment, and which was $0 a month based on my income with the family size that we had, and so it was like, um oh, I'm just gonna ride this out until it gets to the 20 years or 25 years, and then it's, like, forgiven or whatever. But, talking with the financial planner too, he's telling me, "Okay, well, but then you have to pay taxes on that." I mean, there's a lot more to it, and even now, I mean, I think there's still a lot of questions about whether or not that program is even gonna be happening. I don't know. And one thing that he had said to me too, which really brought it home for me, was, um, like, you signed that promissory note. Like, you said you were gonna pay that money back. And so, the it's important to me to try to live with integrity. And so for me, it was like to try to turn around and say, well, I'm just gonna kind of forget about that and hope it goes away. Just wasn't sitting right with me. So it was like all these little pieces to where I was just really trying to, how can I really get a plan together to get out of debt and to pay it off? Because at the end of the day, it was my responsibility. I made that choice to take that debt on. Um, so uh, probably in 2015, I just started to slowly try to start putting some more money towards specifically the student loans. I think at that point, I had paid off, I had a little bit of credit card debt, and those I had started with first, and I had paid those off. And then I started, like I was telling you, Rebecca, I had seen your post of when you paid off your debt, and it really got me, uh, inspired because I was like, okay, this is possible. Like somebody in the acupuncture world has paid off their debt. This can happen. Um, and then in early 2016, because I do community acupuncture, and my clinic is a part of POCA Co-op, which is a nationwide co-op for community acupuncturists and community acupuncture clinics, so we can support each other. So I went to their they had do like twice a year when we're not having coronavirus anyway. We would get together for like a conference. So I went in March of 2016. I went to the Poca Fest that they had in Nashville, and there was another girl there, a friend of mine, who went to the same school as me around the same time, who's a community acupuncturist at that time, and we got a chance to really connect And she told me that she was almost done with paying off her student loans. And so I got a chance to really connect with her about what she did and how she made that happen. She really got me kind of reignited for um, Dave Ramsey. And so I started listening to the podcast, and the podcast really did it for me more than the book did, because people call in and they'll say their own story. And the book, it's kind of like, here's the baby steps, this is what to do. But when you listen to the podcast, they, like, you hear other people's stories that are, um, all kinds of different situations, and he will talk them through it, how those steps can apply to them. And that gave me a lot more confidence, that even though I have a small income at the time, that there was really, things I could do, measurable steps. And so I just really started focusing on that. And um, yeah, there's a lot of different things I did. And of course, my business, I opened my own acupuncture clinic in 2015. And so there was kind of a lot of stuff going on right at that time for me. And then, but it takes a few years, I guess, to where you just get, you grow the clinic. And so the biggest thing that I would say made the difference was that I just kept on, um, acting like I had this minimal income. So even as my income was growing, that money, just the first thing, went towards the debt. And, then same thing, like I was saying at the beginning, when you get that snowball rolling and it's going in your favor, when you're looking at the beginning and you have this huge amount of debt to pay off, it's very overwhelming. But as soon as you kind of get that rolling, it it goes much faster than you would think. And that's a big thing.
Awesome. That's it's I sorry, I feel like really like humbled that because that I had any part of like you and being inspired to do this. It was, it was always something. I shared it for a reason, hoping to inspire people, but that it actually did that to someone, and now they're debt free. It's like, oh my god, I want to cry. um, but that's really great, and everything you just said. There weren't any tricks. There weren't any, you know, shortcuts. It was just kind of look at your situation. You made the decision. You had the intention. You had a, you know, you mentioned like you had like kind of felt like almost like a moral obligation to do this also because you wanted to keep to your word um and then you did it right and you had three little kids and you're starting a business and it's these are all obstacles that can really paralyze people but good on you, congratulations for not using those as necessarily obstacles to to get in your way. You did this in spite of all the
Yeah.
obstacles in front of you.
Well, and it's really important, I think, to just say, now I'm sitting here and it's like, 4 or 5 years later, and I'm like, yeah, I'm out of debt. But, at some point, you just have to like make that step. It's
Mhm.
just like, and you don't know where you're going to end up in 5 years.
Mhm.
There's it can feel so overwhelming, but once you really just get moving, one thing I think about all the time is this, like what we do with acupuncture, because the chi follows intention, and this is just something to I try to remember it all the time, but I think it's really important in this case, because once you really put your intention into that's what you're going to do, it may take time to really, see it unfold, but it comes.
And you paid off, you made your last payment, you said March 4th of 2020.
Yes.
So just
Yes.
recently.
So, yeah, that was to pay off my car. And so what I did was this last year, um, we had a pretty good year in the clinic. And what I usually do is throughout the year, I take my salary. And then at the end of the year, once I've done my taxes and everything, then I'll draw the disbursement from the business. So basically, what is left over income. And so that's what I did. And that amount of money paid the last of my uh, loans off, and it put uh, my 3 to 6 months emergency fund for uh, my household as well as for the business. Um, and so that happened the first week of March, and like when we had to close the clinic and nobody knows what's going to happen, and I do community acupuncture, so there's particularly a lot of stress. Like, we're in a space with other people. Like, how is this going? Like, what is business going to look like? You just don't know. And to not have to really worry about whether or not we're going to survive it is just like, just such a relief. Like, I felt so bad for people. I was hearing everybody's stories, like, on Facebook of their difficult time that they're having, and to not have that financial problem about it was just such a relief. And it's like, obviously for other people out there who are, they're in a bad situation, the thing is that there's always something that's coming, like there's always, like, maybe you are in a bad situation about it this time, but if you can start taking those steps, that the next time the emergency comes up or this problem comes up or whatever, it's not a problem, it's not the same kind of problem. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's some pretty powerful stuff. It's like that's the other thing that we think about with our people don't always, because people want to be out of debt. And, when you think about getting out of debt, you always think of like, oh, like, financial freedom and, like I could do more like fun stuff and you know what I mean? Or just, not worry as much. But then like what you just said, like when life happens, you're it makes it's a whole different you know uh level of relief and security and it's profound, it's really powerful stuff. This is the kind of stuff that can really change people's lives for sure.
Yeah. So,
So
like, last week, I had a leak at my house. So we had to pull, oh my gosh, this huge plumbing problem. And now we're going to have to get our entire house replumbed. And yeah. And it's like, okay, it's stressful, but the most stressful part of it is not there's no how are we going to pay for this? You know, it's I have the money, you know? And it's all like, okay, well, now we have to go pick out new fixtures because we might as well redo the bathrooms while we're at it, It's like a whole different experience than how it would have been for us in the past.
oh yeah,
So it's really nice.
that's great. Yep, that's the thing, emergency funds, they turn crises into inconveniences, right?
Mhm.
So so well, thank you so much for coming on. It's a great story, and congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment. Um,
Thank
bravo.
you.
Yeah. um, so I always like to have the platform here. If there's anything that you would like to plug, where it's like charity, product, service, class, your practice, anything that you want to share with anybody. You have the
Um,
platform.
I mean, not really. I always like to share about Polka because they've been very that's been a really big part of my success, I think, with my practice is being able to have that community of people to work with. And community acupuncture is totally my passion. So, um, if there's anybody out there that's like interested in that, that's a really good place to go. You can go to polkacoop.com and they have a lot of information and ways to network with people. Um, and then, I mean, I have some different projects I'm working on, but that's for the future.
Well, you'll have to share those with us for sure. Awesome. And yes, Poca definitely they have their stuff together for sure. They're very organized and they're very uh, really good with kind of preparing people in our field to go out and hit the ground running for sure. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Annie. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll just see you on the group. And good luck with I know that the being community acupuncture, you've had to change some things around with clinic, of course, like with the numbers and whatnot, but it sounds like you're still kind of rolling along pretty well. And
Oh yeah,
um
definitely. We're gonna be here, and I mean, people really need to have access to this kind of medicine, so we're not going anywhere.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Annie. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we will see you on the group. All
Thank
right. Take
you.
care.
Bye.